Hey guys, it's Adam Rose from Western Ohio Mortgage. I'm the Vice President Senior Loan Officer here in Sydney, Ohio. This is another episode of the Mortgage Guide podcast, and it's a little bit different format. This is the one where you're going to get to know Aaron Barker of Southwestern Consulting. Aaron, thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a long time coming. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Adam.
What we're going to do today, Aaron, we're going to get to know you a little bit better, talk about your business, why you do what you do, how you can help others, how you are helping me. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that, right? We don't have like a disclosure that says you can't talk about me ever,
Right.
like a therapist, right? So,
No, we don't
but
go
that's
that
what we're
far.
going to get into. So, Aaron, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and how you kind of got into this.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Adam. So back in 2004, I was in high school. I got recruited to go sell books door to door up in Rochester, New York. And if you can imagine upstate New York, it's like really, really cold in the summertime. And yeah, which is really weird. So when you're out of your element for the first time, and door after door just gets slammed in your face, you just kind of have this moment where you just think to yourself, am I really cut out for this? um, I remember immediately following that thought, just thinking to myself, well, number one, I don't quit things ever. So I'm just gonna have to cut myself out for this. When that summer ended and came my leader, he walked me through the end where at the end of every summer we have what we have remitted throughout the year, and then we get paid, and he was just checking to make sure, oh, is this good? Is this what you expected? Are you happy with how your summer went? Was his question.
Right.
And I remember totally feeling really a lot of pride in my effort. I knew that I had worked really hard. I just knew that I didn't have the results that I wanted. And that whole next year, I decided to come back for a second summer. I don't know. Maybe I liked
Glutton for
punishment.
punishment, right?
It was a time where when your first position, I know a lot of us can remember our first experience working, our first experience really cutting our teeth in the industry we were excited about. That was me. And the company's Southwestern, um, that company, this company has been around 168 years, and we're the oldest direct sales company. So when I sold books to them door to door right out of high school, they had so many programs already set up to help train us, help us develop our own self, not in just our skills, but as humans. Their mission as an organization is to invest in the lives of young people. And so they have so many things where we can learn. And I remember sitting and listening to, as a 19-year-old kid, listening to the top producer who had crushed it and done really well. His name was Dave. And I remember thinking that there was a lot of humility and service and others oriented, just nature about Dave that just stood out. It was a little different. And I just remember thinking, I just want to learn from this top producer. He gave his cell phone number out at the end of this talk, and I wrote that down. And then every uh, week that next summer, I called him and asked for his help. And that second summer, I did really do well. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I did well, and that's where my love for seeing who I could be when I was tested, right? Seeing what really what I was made of. And I know there's a lot of us that think to ourselves, can I make it? Can I hack it? Can I cut it? Am I going to be at the end of this? And there's a lot of external factors that we tend to get focused on, but what I love the most about Southwestern, what I love the most about my mentor Dave, is he forced me to think about not the territory out here, but the territory in here. And you know Adam, this is the part of my story that I hope a lot of us can relate with. I know most of us can. We just kind of drift, right? And
Yeah. Yeah. We need to refocus our efforts. Like you always tell me, control the controllables, right?
yep, yeah, and if you fast forward, after I got finished selling books, I got married, I had kids. I was 22 when I got married, 24 when I had kids, 26 when I had our last two twins. So it was all happening at once for me. And, you know, I started working with a ministry that set up and established businesses for the sole purpose of funding orphan care in other countries. And I developed their sales process. I took what I learned in books and I invested my skills in work that I really cared about. And, even though I was surrounded by a lot of people that had the same values and beliefs than me, there was still a drifting that occurred in me, drifting away from the principles that had guided me. And I had a book kid come knock on my door 10 years later, introduced me back to Southwestern. I had Dave call me, and I asked him like, "Hey, I've got invited to speak to these book kids." So I was married now, I had kids, and I went to speak to these kids, and Dave called me and said, "Hey, what are you planning on speaking about?" And I shared with him some things, and then he said, "Tell me how it goes." And so when I called him back, I told him how that talk went. And I said, "Dude, I just loved it." And that's when Dave said, "How would you like to be a coach?" And at that point, I had no clue what he really did. I knew he was still with Southwestern. And he said, "How would you just like to do that, and be a coach?" And um, Adam, that is when, you know, when you kind of get reignited with that same passion of your own growth. And I know you and I've talked about just that, getting back to who we once were,
Right.
getting back to that thing. I know a lot of us got started in our industry and our career and we just were fired up, right? We were just like, we were zoned in, and then things started working and clicking, and we maybe got in a rut or we got a little comfortable, and man.
The comfort thing is a big thing in sales. You would get started, you're super excited about the new career, you want to crush it. It takes a while to build up that business. You start crushing it. Now we're trying to find ways of, all right, now I can kind of sit back and relax a little bit. And it kind of gets away from what you loved about the business, right? And how you did business. And something that we've talked about multiple times is getting back to what I call the basics, right? Like doing what we did when we first started to reignite, recreate that business and keep growing. Um, you don't want to be stagnant, right? Ever. It gets boring. That's why you get complacent. So I agree 100%. And so on that topic, sorry to catch up on your story here. What were you doing after you got done selling books? You had this gap, you created a family, and you got reunited with Southwestern Consulting. What were you doing during that time? After books, before back into Southwestern?
Yeah, so there was a small startup company
Mm-hmm.
called HVAC.com. That was the website that a lot of HVAC contractors, they had software they could take part in, and they were on that website. And it got started back in 2015, 14 or 15. And I got brought on to develop that base of contractors to sort of sell that to contractors. And so we built out a huge list of contractors, residential HVAC contractors. And there was another software that's actually still in existence today and crushing it, called Contractor Commerce. And my role was to take that software and sell it to the contractors that were already on our website, that were already partnered with us, which there were at that point thousands. And so we had taken this site, developed a bunch of relationships, and then we took this product that we built. Will Hausch is his name, who owns company, Contractor Commerce, and then we delivered that to contractors. And so I was in a role in a startup sales company, developing sales process, getting things started from the ground up. There was another product that I was tasked with launching called Philanthreo. I'm trying to remember how they pronounce
Philanthropy.
Philanthreo, right?
I don't know.
I'm like trying to remember what it was titled. Yeah, and it was furnace filters that were very quality furnace filters. And 10% of the revenue, not profit, but revenue, was donated to orphan care. And so we actually got from the ground, floor. I was traveling and loading just filters into a truck and driving all over Ohio and selling it to local Ace Hardwares to have them sell it in their hardware store. And so I got like 25 to 30 of these local hardware stores to sell our product. And I took that data. I actually created a box that had a little tissue paper in it. I asked my brother-in-law who designs, he owns his own design company, how to like package a really cool, welcome box. And I actually sent it to the CEO of Ace Hardware. And so I mailed him his own personal box with a little handwritten note in it, because I knew that he was, from his socials and from things I looked up about him, I knew that he cared about, giving and missions. And so I wrote this handwritten note, and then I got a call actually from his personal assistant that said, "We want you in our Ace Hardware distribution." And so we went to the show in Columbus, and we got that furnace filter into distribution. And that was like during that's what I was doing right before I became a coach. That was one of my, just proudest moments of taking something from nothing and getting it recognized, and it was cool.
I mean, was there anything about that path that led you to the coaching that you would change or you didn't like, or do you feel like, hey, it was all meant to be? I did everything I could do, loved my job before, because you got that sense of accomplishment. You sent something as a salesperson to a
Yeah,
CEO of a major firm
yeah,
and got in the door. That doesn't usually happen that way, right? It's usually like one little store at a time. Oh, I got to get approval. I got to do. You just
right.
went to the top and said, "I'm going for it," and it
Yeah,
happened. So I mean, did you enjoy that job? I mean,
yeah.
I guess what kind of pushed you into coaching from there if you were enjoying it so much? Did you just see it as just a new frontier, a new opportunity, or how,
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
were your
no,
feelings
it's
then?
interesting too, because I'm sure a lot of us can relate to taking something that we're doing and finding the joy in it, right? And finding all the ways in which it relates to us, we thrive. And I was doing that. And if you have been introduced to an opportunity that you just didn't even know existed, you really didn't even know that that was an option for you, and then it gets presented to you. I had such a really good relationship with my owner. I had such a strong, you know, we were very open with each other, and I heard from Dave what he was doing, and I remember talking to Will and saying, "Hey, I got asked by Dave, and I had talked about Dave because I was in a sales role with Will, and that was one of the reasons he hired me. And everything I know and learned came from Southwestern, and mostly came from Dave. And so he had already. We were talking about it's called the three-dimensional name, one of those things that I introduced to Will, and Will started practicing and learning. And so when I talked to him, I said, "Hey, I think this is a really exciting and interesting option for me. I really love what I'm doing." I remember even a week ago telling Will I could see myself here 20 years later. So I wasn't unhappy. I just knew that who Southwestern was in their core, the company and the leadership and the people, they just were me.
Right.
It was
They
my,
formed who you were. They
they
helped.
literally
They
formed
were your
who I
identity.
was. It
Yeah.
was my identity, Adam. And there was absolutely nothing that I was going to dismiss when Dave talked to me, of course, because it was like being reunited with your actual brother.
Right.
And so I remember just talking to him and saying, "Hey, I don't know if I want to do this, but I think I'd like to get a coach." And Will had said, "Why?" And I remember telling Will, I'm kind of creating everything right now, right? Like, and I am doing it from everything I've learned, but I don't really have a guide. I kind of am the guide for us as a
Right.
company. I'm
Hmm.
creating our content. I'm creating everything. I don't really have I don't have sales scripts written for us. I don't have a process for this. I don't really have somebody challenging me, and I just think that'd be sweet. I remember thinking back to college how I never really had like a guidance counselor. I kind
Right.
of makeshifted it. I sold books door to door, and then I recruited during the school year. I studied psychology, but I knew I was never really going to use psychology. So I kind of created my own experience. I just told Will, I'd love to have a guide challenging me,
So
helping me
you
through things.
so you left that, right? And you're kind of stepping into something brand new again because even though you're familiar with the culture and how Southwestern was, it's still a completely different role. And you had to
Totally.
recreate yourself. Totally different, right? Starting from the ground up
Yes.
once again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. Which I had
that's
done a few
scary,
times.
right? And people in sales in general experience that every single day, right?
Yeah.
Recruiting for the mortgage business, people that are in real estate that want to go into, be a realtor full time, people that go into title, any insurance sales, whatever it is, it's scary because most people are on commission. They eat what they kill, right? They create their own.
Hey guys, you just finished watching part one of Aaron Barker's experience about his life, how he became a coach at Southwestern Consulting. And we are going to have part two for you next week. So please make sure you tune in, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how he helps people, what he does for a living, and how you may be able to benefit from his profession. So tune in next week again, guys. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And remember, subscribe on YouTube, and we will catch you guys next week.